Greetings and welcome to Zord's Planetary Space Program episode 30, where we're going to do that other hard thing besides Eve landing you can do. We're going to land and return from Tylo. Of course, we have the advantage of having a space station in the Joule system, which will make this challenge a whole lot easier. Arguably, the reason Tylo is so hard is because it's simply very far away. And now that we have established a foothold with fuel stations here, it's a lot easier. So we docked the command module to the rest of the swordfish thing, and I'm going to just move this out of the physics range from the space station because the lag is very bad and we want to transfer the crew into the other command module, or it's not a command module, it's just a pod, but we're gonna move it nevertheless, and then we're going to go to Tylo simply, and it's a bit of a miscalculation on my part when designing this, the fact that we need to drag the command module all the way there, because if we don't, we are not going to have anything to return in. So let's see, just make 100,000 is maybe good. Yeah, we're moving away at decent speed. And wait for it. Oh, you can feel the space station unloading. Here we go. Transferring all the crew over to the command pod of the lander. All of them. Bill, Jab, and Bob. We are going to bring all of them, unlike Eve, because it is easier to do on Tylo. Mostly, or probably only because of the lack of atmosphere. So, now we need to wait for a launch window, which we now have, and then we need to plan the maneuver, which I now have done, and now we're gonna execute this maneuver. It's very interesting because the Joule system is so small and compact, and the moons are so close together, and combined with the fact that we are using patched conics for the physics of approximation, which is a decent system, but in this particular situation it gets kind of weird when, as you see here, I need to make the orbit just big enough to escape Lathe, and when I do, as you will see in just a few moments, my apoapsis around Joule is above Tylo's orbit. So I don't know quite how I'm gonna manage the Val encounter on this, but I'll figure something out. So, this is a very interesting orbit, going out to Tylo, which will give me a gravity assist that will bring me right back to Lathe. I wonder where I'd go next. Come on, give me the real orbit. There we go, thank you, game. Anyway, as you maybe saw, the drive stage, nuclear drive stage for this craft, using some kind of asparagus-like system where we have 3 tanks and 3 engines, where the outermost 2 tanks feeds into the middle tank, meaning that the middle tank is not consuming fuel. So it's, well, technically asparagus. You know, it's a little, but don't really use it as asparagus. Because we want to maximize the delta V, and we only need a lot of fuel to get the delta V when we're going to Tylo, because we're hauling a 100-ton spacecraft. So first thing we do when we get to Tylo is correct inclination, because I learned that if you don't, it will eventually build up and come back to bite you. So we start with that, and then we want to, of course, get an orbit, circularize an orbit. And this maneuver is not too big, but this spacecraft basically doesn't accelerate. I mean, it's got 3 nuclear engines, but it's over 100 tons. So I'm figuring we can actually do a multi-pass orbit insertion. So we start by the most important bit, which is getting ourselves captured. So I'm just gonna burn until the outer 2 tanks run out of fuel, which they will shortly do. 30 units, 25, yeah, it's time accelerated. So we have a captured orbit, which is good, and we are out of fuel here. So let's check if the staging still works. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Here we go. Okay, so now we're rid of that dead weight, and we're just gonna keep doing these passes until we have a circular orbit. Of course, now our thrust to weight ratio is even lower with a single nuclear engine. So this is gonna take a while. It's gonna take several passes, and I'm going to spare you the pain and just cut to a significant time later, where we have a circular orbit. We have used 2 of the extra fuel tanks located at the bottom of the radial tanks of the lander, but I figure we might as well spend them here. See, the 2 of them are missing. I spent the fuel, just fed it into the tank with the nuclear engine. So now we're going to do our deorbit burn. We're gonna do sort of a suicide burn thing here because it's the most efficient. And while we do not want the command module or the interlunar drive stage thing to land with us, we're going to do the deorbit burn with them still attached. Mostly because we're gonna do the deorbit burn with the nuclear engine because it's more efficient, and we can't just leave the command module out there. It's not robotic, there's no one in it. It's just gonna drift away. So we have lowered our periapsis. So now we're gonna undock this drive stage, which of course is a modular component, and we're just going to swing it around and dock it to the back of the command module. So now then we will have 2 ships, one of them being robotic with the command module, and the rest being, well, the entire Tylo lander. And the idea here is to do something similar to the Eve mission, where you have one ship, a rescue ship essentially, waiting in low orbit for the ascension ship to arrive. So we have docked, and we have the crew in the right place, and I was considering here whether we should transfer fuel from the 2 drop tanks that still remains to this I'm gonna call it the rescue ship, because it has very low fuel. You see, it's not really anything left, so it's not gonna get back. But I figure, no, this lander's gonna need all the fuel it can get. So we remove the docking port and the decoupler to reveal the mainsail, which is the engine we're gonna use. And we plan this maneuver node to see roughly how much it's gonna take to kill horizontal velocity. And it's not a pretty sight, that's a huge node. Okay, so we are below the 1 barrier for time acceleration. It's time to get ourselves ready to do this. This is gonna be horrible. So how long time? It's gonna take several minutes to kill horizontal velocity with the mainsail. That's bad. But I suppose we could start by emptying these drop tanks. We can't land with these on anyway. There we go. Stage, thank you. And yeah, we're gonna have to start burning now, but this will... okay, this is hard. So we're just gonna have to keep burning, I suppose. This looks good. How much? Okay, just burn, 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 if this is gonna be survivable at all. Pedal to the metal. Okay, so those are almost empty. This doesn't look too good. Actually, I take that back. This looks okay. I think we can do it. Yeah, we go 100 meters per second. Okay, we're vertical. 500 meters. Time to slow the footage down a bit. We have a shadow. Come on, land gently. Oh, break, 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 break. Yes, it bounced. We landed safely. I don't think anything got destroyed. So, let's get the crew out. Let's plant the flag and take the postcards and, you know, everything, whatever you do before you have science. Let's get all the guys out. It's testing the gravity a bit. It's, well, it's not quite like Kerbin. It's like 80% of Kerbin, you know? Oh, well, yeah, Kerbals. They'll do whatever they want. And the last guy. Come on, get out there. We don't have all day. Let's see here, yeah, postcard. Maybe this will be the thumbnail for the video. Plant a flag, of course. Tylo landing site. Yes, good. Also, beware the radioactive debris we kinda accidentally, maybe not at all, dropped in orbit. Well, there's not much left to do really. We can admire the size of this thing we landed and get back into orbit. We have a we have a flight to catch, almost a space flight. So let's get back in there and prepare for ascension. Let's see. Okay, so two of these tanks are empty. They're set up to drain from each other. And well, let's see how we're gonna do this. We're gonna drop two of them as soon as we lift off, of course, and the other two when they're empty. So goodbye tanks, and in a second now, ditch. Okay, we're very far from orbit here, but we're basically a missile with a absurd thrust to weight ratio. The mainsail is really doing its job here. And no thanks to the mainsail, but we still have a lot of fuel left, half of it in this part alone, so we should have no problem, I feel. Yeah, well, the thrust to weight ratio is excellent to say the least. So shaping these orbits is not a problem. Actually, with the fuel we have, we can just probably brute force our way into an encounter here. Let's see, we're gonna have to have an apoapsis of 100,000, I think. And yeah, okay, the target orbit isn't circular, so this is gonna take a while. And a while later, we have this encounter. And we're just gonna match velocities. Bloop, super easy. And this empty craft has all the RCS systems, so we're just gonna do the rendezvous business with this guy. Okay, here we are. Well, we can make this easier by rotating the manned craft to point at it. Here we go. We could ignore the docking, I suppose, and just EVA the crew over and send fuel from the station. We can do that. But why would we when we can dock these two together and just steal whatever fuel's left in the lander? Actually, it appears to have been sort of overbuilt. You see, it's got almost half fuel left, which means that we can almost fill the rescue vehicle as it has only half the volume of fuel tanks or something. So here we go. We have transferred crew and fuel. We can ditch this thing, never to be used again. We name this the Tylo transport ship to keep us from confusing them. And now we need to wait for the encounter or the transfer window. Fortunately, the transfer window are very frequent. It's like once a day, so we don't have to wait long. And now we need to do this maneuver, and it's gonna take a while. We still have quite low acceleration, but it's significantly higher than it was before, given the payload is negligible compared to the 100+ tons. Now we need to think about if we're gonna keep this modular part with the tank and the engine, or if we're gonna ditch it. It's like 50 parts after all. We could use the fewer parts on the space station. But then again, it's quite handy and used very little fuel, making all these Delta V's to get back to Leith. So yeah, goodbye Tylo. Oh, another one of these super interesting orbits. So at the edge of the sphere of influence, I will go up, and then on the way down, when I hit the sphere of influence, I will exit. Yeah, no, I should say that needs to be fixed. So, hello Leith, we are back, and you have all seen this before. I get into Leith, I set up my periapsis for an aerobraking, do the aerobraking, check how the encounters are doing, and after that I set up the encounters, get the actual encounter, and then we dock. And this time we dock at horribly slow speed, because even though we have lost a couple of hundred parts, it's still a lot of parts. But we are back, we are home, or we are at our home away from home at least. Let's do what we always do, get some sunshine on this and admire the view. Thank you for watching. That's it for this episode. I hope to see you next time. Bye!